This is Jeff Nowak with WWL. We are here getting ready to celebrate the WWL Radio 100th anniversary with Doug Thornton,
Executive Vice President for ASM Global. We are the managers for the Caesars Superdome and the Smoothie King Center here in New Orleans.
You've been around the Superdome for decades. Is it basically a second home to you at this point?
I spend more time here than I do at my own home. There's no question about it. And over the last 26 years, it is a second home for me and all of our staff, actually. But you know, I tell people when they get into this business, this is a lifestyle, it's not a job. And you've got to love it, you know, to want to do it on weekends and holidays when everybody else is off from work. We're usually hosting events.
What's your earliest memory of coming in and kind of experiencing WWL? Is there anything that kind of sticks out?
Well, I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, so I was familiar with WWL, didn't listen to WWL in Shreveport, moved to Houston out of college, moved to New Orleans in 1984. So my first memory of WWL probably was with the New Orleans Saints, you know, because of the flagship station of the Saints. And in particular, I can remember one person who sticks out in my mind, and that's Hap Glaude. Hap Glaude had a talk show. It was probably the first of its kind in the nation, which now there are many, many radio talk show hosts, but Hap had an afternoon and evening sports show, and he would interview guests from around the country. But certainly one of my early memories of WWL was listening to all of the Saints games when I first moved here. You know, it was Jim Henderson and Archie Manning, and you know, you'd turn down the TV and listen to them on the radio because that was a lot more interesting than listening to the guys on television. But certainly Hap Glaude is someone that sticks out in my mind. You know, I associate him with WWL Radio because he was involved for so many years. And then after that, Buddy D came along. They were both cut from the same cloth, you know, tried and true New Orleans, as Dave Dixon used to say, all the way down to their toenails. And so those two guys knew everything about high school, college, and pro sports in this area. And very interesting people, both of them, and had very interesting guests and a very interesting perspective on a lot of different things. I never will forget Buddy D declaring on WWL Radio that he would wear a dress on Poydras Street if the Saints were to win the Super Bowl. And Bobby Hebert followed through on that promise. But
is there a specific call you would identify with in terms of, you know, this is kind of the Saints on WWL experience?
Jim Henderson's call when the punt was fumbled and the Saints recovered to go to the playoffs against the St. Louis Rams. I can't remember the exact year, but it was
Akeem dropped the ball.
Akeem dropped the ball, and the Saints are going to the playoffs during the Jim Moore era. That was the one that kind of sticks out in my mind. Certainly, there have been many others, but that one certainly sticks out.
Well, see, Hoss likes to do an impersonation there. Do you have a?
No, I can't. No one can impersonate Jim Henderson. He's the best.
Well, Hoss tries.
Hoss tries. Akeem drops the ball.
There it is. Yeah.
Saints playoffs. They're going to, can you believe it? Pigs fly.
You did want to do it. You just didn't admit it. You know, one of the other things, obviously, is the, you know, kind of rebirth from Katrina and how the Superdome itself was such a big part of that. You know, what are your memories of that? And if you have any kind of that tie into WWL?
Oh, I have a vivid memory of the role WWL played. Hurricane Katrina hit us on that Sunday evening, and we lost power the next day here in the Superdome. We had 30,000 evacuees in the building for what turned out to be 5 days. So without any power in the building, many of the evacuees had transistor radios, and we couldn't communicate with the evacuees in mass. In other words, we couldn't get on the loudspeaker and broadcast to them. So many of them were getting their information daily about what was going on in the neighborhoods and with the recovery and the evacuation from WWL. So we literally had to walk across the street. This is when WWL was in what used to be the Dominion Tower, and go to WWL to provide information so they could speak to the evacuees through radio inside the dome. Now, I know that sounds crazy. They were right here with us, but we had no way, if you think about it, we had no way to speak to 30,000 people. You can't get on the loudspeaker because it was broken. The water had damaged it. We had no power to begin with. So many of these people were listening to WWL Radio, and we were trying to provide them with updates and information about when the evacuation would occur, and things of that nature. So they were getting all of their external and internal information from WWL, even though we were right here with them. But certainly during that entire saga, it wasn't just the 5 days. Beyond that, the next 90 days, WWL became the trusted voice of information. I just remember, people listening to WWL throughout the day. You could go into any location around the city, and that's where people were getting their information. So WWL played a huge role during that entire post-Katrina sequence of events, all the way through the year, through that entire 2005 period, all the way through December and even into 2006. Very same situation occurred with Hurricane Ida.
Yeah.
I think any of the major disasters that we've had here, the hurricane events where we lose power, WWL, of course, is the source of information, not only for weather, but for, any emergency declaration or what's going on in the community. Yeah. Congratulations to WWL for 100 great years. There's probably not another radio station in the country that I can think of that means more to its community than WWL means to New Orleans. From a personal standpoint, I want to express my thanks for WWL's coverage of all of the activities that we've had here throughout the years at the Caesars Superdome and the Smoothie King Center. You guys have been a great partner in so many ways in carrying basically the sports flagship around this state and around the country.